Carl and Damon here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short. And it's Let's Talk. We're doing a game one. We're going to be talking about Discworld 2 Missing Presumed, or Discworld 2 Mortality Bites, if you know it, from North America, which is a title I've always liked more.
Yeah, it does.
I really have. It's the 1996 point-and-click adventure game based, of course, on Terry Pratchett's series of fantasy novels, Discworld. And it's a sequel to the 1995 video game of the same name, which was Discworld. Speaking of which, and let's start there. Have you ever played that? The original Discworld?
Discworld, the first one?
The first one, yeah.
I think I played it briefly. My knowledge of it is not nowhere near as good as number two.
Oh yeah, same.
Yeah.
My knowledge of it as well. Of course I have played it. I had to eventually play it and stuff like that, but it certainly wasn't the starting point. It's good. It's fun. It's got the same kind of humour. It's very different animation-wise, but it's also very, very difficult. Discworld 2 is difficult too, because it's a point-and-click game. But Discworld 1, it's randomness. It's too random, so it's one of those point-and-clicks where it's like, how does this work? It's too insane.
Yeah,
that's why I enjoy it, but it's not Discworld 2. And there's a reason kind of why we wanted to do this one. You might be thinking this is really, really random thing to talk about. This is more about segues into a Discworld conversation overall because of this impact this game has had on my specific life. A game that borrowed, at the time I had no clue, but borrows from several books, key elements from several of the Discworld books, specifically Reaper Man, Moving Pictures. That's two that are very, very heavily covered here. This game as well, if you don't know, was ported to the PlayStation and the Saturn in 1997. The Saturn was exclusive to the European market by Sega as well. I always remember playing on a PlayStation.
Yep.
It ran well. It ran perfectly fine.
Yep.
It's my strongest memories of it. To date, it's probably the only place I've ever really played it. I know I played it a few years back, recorded a gameplay run-through of it for the YouTube channel, way back in the early days of the YouTube channel on Scumv, on that operating system. And it's the same. It's a point-and-click animation game. It's nothing too complex here. So, how does this start? How did you remember? I remember exactly how I got hold of this game. Do you know that? Exactly how I got hold of it.
I can't remember how you got hold of it, but my memories of this game is you playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally for the years and years of playing it, and it's just it's one of those games which it's like Broken Sword. It's one of those games which will always be there.
Yep.
And will always have, like I said, I can remember so many scenes in my head of the game, even though I've not played it in like 10, 15, maybe longer, 15
Maybe
years
longer, yep.
You know, so I still own it on the PS1. You know, it cost me a nice £30 for a very, very old game.
Yep.
But it's worth every penny now.
So, I traded this at school for a CD. For a Metallica CD it was. In fact, I think it was the Black Album. An extra copy of that was traded for this. In fact, I traded a load of games. Broken Sword 2 was one of the other ones. Weirdly enough, like we just said there, I always put Broken Sword 2 and Discworld 2 alongside each other because I played them both at the same time. Weirdly, sequels to the original games at the same time pretty much, and have a lot of love for both. However, only one is life-changing. You might think that's hyperbole and go, what the hell does he mean life-changing? Come on, man, it's only a game. I will explain what I mean by that, life-changing, as I'm going to go in depth into some of my personal life in regards to Discworld and so on. But yeah, that's how I got hold of it. It was a trading thing. I just thought it looked colourful, it looked pretty. I had no clue what Discworld was. I don't remember, but I was a kid, maybe about 14, 15. I didn't know who Terry Pratchett was. I didn't know a single thing about it. And obviously I fell completely in love with it. Same with Broken Sword, we segue into that. It's weird, whereas Discworld, the original Discworld, I don't hold in as high regard.
Yeah.
Later when I would play Broken Sword, the original, that is as good as Broken Sword 2. But because I've got more nostalgic memories for Broken Sword 2, I kind of rank that one higher.
That's the way you always go to,
but yeah, Broken Sword 1 is amazing. Whereas Discworld 1 is alright.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
Yep.
I think, here's the thing, I don't think you need to be a fan of Discworld to play Discworld 2 Missing Presumed, Mortality Bites. But I think it would fucking help. when I played it back then, I certainly did not know anything about it. I thought it was a weird, wacky world that had no connection to anything I understood. Later, I would find out what the connections were and stuff like that. And now when I play it, it's a very different experience completely. But the voice acting, the colours, the imagery, the music, all of that was enough to hook me. I think, right, maybe aside from like basic SNES games and all that, this might be my first experience of a traditional point-and-click game.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really think of any other ones really back in that time period.
No.
Of games we were playing. But I said, I was saying to you earlier, but I'm off camera, like one of my biggest memories of this game, and I'll always, even now, I'm singing it in my head now, is that goddamn green imp. God, and one of your favourite words used to always call me and Liam, I think, he used to call us a gimp. Always calls a gimp. And it's like one of the things that the imp calls you. He calls you like a git or a gimp or stuff like that. So literally, it's a constant memory in my head.
Yeah, I know the voice. Weirdly enough, I think it's one of the most irritating voices in the entire game. But weirdly enough, voice acting as well is something I didn't appreciate back then. Eric Idle did the voice of Rincewind in both games, actually. And he did such a great job of it, that I would never hear anyone about Eric Idle as Rincewind. Should I segue into it? All right, we'll do it now then. I hated the David Jason Colour of Magic, like fantastic movies for Sky. I will talk about Gone Postal later, and Hogfather. Right, I'll talk about them later, but for now, I'm talking about them because that was Rincewind as David Jason. I thought it was an incredibly poor miscasting. Although David Jason is a fine actor and stuff like that, I couldn't quite get... I understand why he brought name value. I understand why that might have turned people in.
Yep.
But that was not my Rincewind. I really struggled with that. I didn't like what they did with those stories. But I will say, Sean Astin as Two Flower was perfect. Was actually really, really good. But that's segueing all that. So Eric Idle has always been my voice. Years later, I would come across an actor in a Pirates of the Caribbean movie who was actually more famous for being in the UK version of The Office, who I thought visually looked exactly like I wanted Rincewind to be. Mackenzie Crook.
Who's he playing?
He's one of the two goons, the one with a false eye.
Okay, yeah.
Visually, I always felt like that was the perfect one visually who'd play Rincewind for me. I don't know if you disagree with me on that or not. But in addition, Tony Robinson, obviously famous, and John Pertwee, obviously famous as well. Both were not involved in the sequel. Tony Robinson didn't return. John Pertwee died.
He died,
before production began. However, voices that did come back. Now, at the time, I did not appreciate Rob Brydon. Now when I hear Rob Brydon again, I'm like, oh, it's cool, it's Rob Brydon, you know? I like Rob Brydon. Kate Robbins as well, absolutely. And of course, Nigel Planner from The Young Ones did several voices in this as well. So yeah, there's a lot of cool English people involved in this that I really, really can appreciate now.
Yeah.
Voice acting's immense, I personally think.
Well, like I said, as a child, when we played this game, I mean, I would have been 9, 10.
What other voices do you remember, like, standing out?
I can remember everyone.
But standing out.
Standing out, obviously, the imp, obviously, as I said. But, do you know what? It's the Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, the milkmaid. The milkmaid.
The milkmaid. Yeah, but her voice was always like, it's like boop boop. It sounded like
it's a mix between Marilyn Monroe and Betty Boop.
Yeah.
She's got a very airy and sexy voice. That's what they're going for. It is a Marilyn Monroe parody. You're right. Because don't forget, Discworld ultimately parodies a lot of things from real life.
The vampire.
Okay.
The vampire signed that, and obviously the wizards at the beginning, when obviously the one dies, and obviously he's
Windle Poons. His name is Windle Poons.
Yeah, obviously I'm not going to remember.
No, but I do because I know the books.
Of course.
And of course, the Arch Chancellor is Mustrum Ridcully. Voices wise, I would mention Dibbler, which is Rob Brydon. Very, very. I thought it was a really accurate version of what I would later appreciate and understand Dibbler to be. What else is there?
I don't remember Death's voice that often. I'm trying to picture his voice.
Well, I have a weird one about Death, is because... Alright, well, on tangent again. I own... It's up here. I don't know if I can just reach it behind me. Let me just have a quick look. Should we be doing this on camera? Oh, where are they? Oh, there they are. Right here. I own the 2 animated movies that were made in the 90s on DVD. They're the only animated movies that exist. Soul Music and Weird Sisters. They're 2 animated movies, DVDs of Discworld. You know they existed? Nope. I own a lot of Discworld stuff. Yeah. Christopher Lee does The Voice of Death.
Oh, wow.
So there you go.
Cool.
And you're like, okay, that's going to be a pretty good one, isn't it? Yes,
cool, yeah.
absolutely. Oh, I wouldn't necessarily recommend these to people, but yeah, there are 2 animated Discworld movies from the 90s. In fact, it was released, if I can find a release date on this. Has it got it anywhere? No, that's the DVD packaging. I don't know, but put it this way. Soul Music, 3 hours and 6 minutes long.
Wow.
So that's how long it is.
Yeah,
and this one, has it got this one? 2 hours and 20, Weird Sisters. So they are long films. You want to borrow them, though, don't you?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I thought as much you can. Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's kind of my thing. Obviously, the Death of Rats. Could not understand why that was the case originally. You know, now I completely get it. It's actually done by Catherine the Crocodile at the time as well. But like, what about location-wise as well? Because one of the things I love about the game is the varied locations, places that I would massively appreciate later on. Hollywood is such a memorable place in particular. Again, I keep coming back to this. Reading the book, moving pictures, and understanding the concept of that is so much more interesting. But of all of them, Ankh-Morpork and the Shades probably more than anything else. Yeah. I adore that, and the Shades, how it would be described in Discworld books, it nails that for me.
Yeah, he spent so much time there too.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that stands out that I can picture in my head now is when obviously you're trying to help Death do his movie. Obviously in like sort of like the desert area.
Okay, Jelly Baby, places like that. Yeah, I
so
mean,
that stands out because obviously it's very bright, colourful.
Death's Domain.
Yeah.
Death's Domain is amazing. Really dark. Really like the music of that location as well inside his house. So funny. Well, back then, I remember being so confused about Death's daughter Susan sitting on the swing, and then like later when I read the book. And her character, like it's amazing to go back and play it and have so much more understanding now.
Yeah. So the one thing I said I've not actually read. I haven't read the books. I've read Colour of Magic probably twice now. I have recently downloaded all the books now. I'm on Audible, and I will get through them.
There's a lot.
Yeah. Literally, it's
nearly 50.
I get 3 credits each month. So it's taken me like 4. Well, it's taken me a long time. Literally, every month I download 3 of them. But yeah, so I will get through them eventually.
Well, there's a lot of them, as you say, particularly in the concurrent series. So, why the game is so important, that's kind of why we're doing this Let's Talk, is it's all good and proper saying, hey, the game's really, really good. It's really enjoyable, split up into clever acts, some interesting stuff, great songs, great music, great voice acting, great visuals that still hold up today because of how the hand-painted backgrounds look and the actual animated characters and all those elements. Puzzles are clever. Sometimes can be very confusing, but also fun to sort of play out, particularly if you know what you're doing and elements like that. I said it was life-changing. So I'm going to talk about that. This is it. This is, I guess, me. I could probably do this alone because, So, eventually, not straight away. I didn't immediately go and find books. But eventually, I would end up coming across several Discworld books. I can't remember how or what I did. In fact, I think my ex-partner may have had 2 or 3 of them. And I was travelling to work a longer distance back then via train. So I wanted something to read on the way. So I started to read them. One of them. So I know it was The Colour of Magic and Light Fantastic. Now, I often tell people, look, if you're going to get started with Discworld, you got to get through the first few. The Colour of Magic is a difficult read. The very first Discworld book is a difficult read. It's a very different writing style. Terry was very heavy on magic, quite fantastical worlds compared to what would be more parodies of real life bleeding into the Discworld later on. I still love The Colour of Magic. I do. I love the imagery he creates in it. I think The Light Fantastic takes that in a similar direction because it's basically a sequel to Colour of Magic, but it wouldn't. It was an interesting step in the next direction. From there, we start to see the changes. Weird Sisters is not Weird Sisters. It's gone from my head. First one with Granny Weatherwax in it. It's oh my god, it's up here. Let me just look up here. It is Equal Rights, which was a really interesting play on, women's roles in this world and stuff like that. And that was the first time I thought this is really interesting. But I don't think I read those. They were random books, and one of the other ones I read was a book called Small Gods, which is quite later on, about the middle of the series overall. And this book changed everything. I read something that was incredibly cleverly interesting, but I took messages from it. I took things from it that I didn't expect to. I almost saw it as a Bible to a certain degree for me, about belief, about one person believing in you is all you need to exist, and all of those elements and so on. You might say you probably took a bit too far, and I probably did, but that was it. That started the obsession. But I knew and found out that I was reading them not in order. Now, of course, famously, you don't have to read them in order. In fact, they almost better, some of them, lumped together in groups. So, for example, the watch books are read them in order, but if you didn't read the other Discworld books around them, you wouldn't matter because you have those books separately.
Okay, yeah.
The death books and so on. However, I do think you should read them in order, as much purely because you then get to see and experience the change in writing style as Terry changed and adapted and moved and grew his style. And you also then get to experience the growth of the world of Ankh-Morpork. The world of Discworld. You see it grow, you see it expand. I love the fact that he always said he had no idea in his head of how it actually looked. Eventually we would get an image of how it looked thanks to many of the wonderful artists he worked with, who took his ideas and put it down and said, what if, this and that, whatever. We would see Ankh-Morpork, we would see the world on the back of the turtle, or back of the 4 elephants, and so on, and once a 5th elephant, but that's a different book altogether. But yeah, Small Gods had a profound effect on me. Part of it was because I was in not great place life-wise. My relationship wasn't good. It was probably coming to an end there. It wouldn't end for a little bit longer, but this book and the Discworld itself became like a beacon for me to hold on to. It really helped. I cite it as helping me through a difficult time, a distraction if you want, and so on, that kind of thing. That's not a poor me, because we're talking 20 years ago? 20 years ago, so no bother that. But I haven't forgotten it because of its impact. I not only grew, the more and more I read, the more experience, the more I fell in love. I fell then madly in love, not just with Small Gods, but other books. Sorcery. Sorcery was the first book I think I ever cried over. Because of what happens at the end of the book. And I know it's kind of undone and Eric and stuff like that. But I found it so uplifting and so powerful for a character who had been written in such a way to do what he does, just so fucking powerfully hit me right there. Really, really upsetting. But then of course we would get to the Nightwatch stuff. Vines, Carrot, people like that, Nightwatch, Guards. These are amazing books, and following them along each way, particularly as, bear in mind, I came to it so late, there were many, many books out already, so I had all this catching up to do. I would eventually read Nightwatch, and Nightwatch is probably the best book of Discworld I've ever written. I think maybe, even though I love Small Gods on a personal level, Nightwatch, which is not a book you should read out of order. Nightwatch is a part of the Guards stuff, and it's 4 or 5 books in of that story. You do not read out of order. But I love that book because it created what I consider to be Terry's greatest villain. And he was human. And that was brilliant. And it's one of my most iconic lines, just the most threatening line a person has ever said in anything I've ever seen or watched. I can see your house from here. That fucking Carcer. Yeah. What a character. What does that tell you? Bear in mind, Vines has a wife and a child. And just by saying I can see your house from here, points out I know where you live. It's there. Oh, what a villain. What a villain. Now, of course, obviously, as Terry would eventually fall into ill health, the quality of the books would dissipate right near the end. The Shepherd's Crown, the final book, the Tiffany Aching story. Now, the Tiffany Aching stories are weird because they started off as for younger readers. They were still in Discworld, but they were separate and written for younger readers. That would change as those books would go on, and they would start introducing more, like Granny, Weatherwax, and people like that. And by the end, I think they were just as relevant to the Discworld as all the others. But I haven't always enjoyed the characters. I wasn't really hot on Tiffany. I felt like she was a poor imitation of Granny, Weatherwax. And the Shepherd's Crown, because obviously it wasn't a complete book. It would be made up of his last parts. It's a bit of a mess and all that kind of thing. But that would be, of course, the final book. He would die before it was published. And so on. Never got to meet him. That's always one of my biggest regrets, to meet him and just talk to him, I guess, about the profound effect his work had on me. I consider him, he's an icon for me. He's generally one of the most wonderful people in the world for what he created here. I have an entire sleeve of tattoos, all inside and out, that's completely dedicated to Discworld. All these different things made up, elements that just put together to create it on that element. Say something.
Yeah, no. So it takes obviously an amazing writer. You know, there's only one or two which stand out for me to make this beautiful world. And obviously, it's him and Tolkien. You know, the worlds they made, the language. You did a face.
No, carry on. You carry on.
The worlds they made, the books they wrote, the language they created, the worlds they created. You know, so yeah. So obviously, Tolkien is obviously my number one,
of course,
and obviously, I haven't read his books, the books yet, but I will get to the books. But obviously, for the game basis wise, obviously made from the books, I can only presume and imagine what the books are like.
Yeah, so going back to the game, because we talk about that going back and playing the game and having not just cursory knowledge, obsessive knowledge, change things completely. Seeing, I guess I'm gonna talk about spoilers here. Talk about Susan. In the game, Susan's just playing on a swing outside in Death's Domain. Not only is she an important character in the book Mort, she would be killed off. She would be like an important character later on, and then be killed off in Soul Music, and her daughter would take the reins. Have you seen Hogfather, the live adaptation of Hogfather?
I've only seen the David Jason.
Well, Hogfather had David Jason as well, but this time he played Albert. And that was a much better role for him. But Susan's daughter is in that. Am I getting them wrong? Is it Susan or is it... I'm trying to remember now. Is it Susan Stoheliot or... Oh, I can't remember. That's the problem when there's so many. It starts to blend into others. Let me find out where it is. They're all up here, so I can just find it. Reaper Man. No, Reaper Man? Will Reaper Man do? Nope. Oh, I can't find him and now I'm distracting everything. Bear with me. Yeah, Soul Music. There we go. Now, Susan's the granddaughter. So I've forgotten what the mum's name is now. We're reading the book. Look at the yellow pages. But that's it. These are all books. My God, it's been a while since I've opened this one. I can't find it, but I've forgotten it now. Yeah, I've forgotten it. But yes, Soul Music. Yes, on that shelf there is a lot of Discworld books. There's every single one of them. When
was the last time you actually
read them through? It's been a while. Because time. Truth be told, to sit down and read them through from beginning to end again, it's time. I'm always kind of.
Audiobook, man. But
I don't
have time to hold the books as I'm driving. They're literally playing to me as I'm driving.
So I did listen to an audiobook. I listened to Small Gods a few weeks back, and funny enough, Tony Robinson was doing some of the voices in it, and hated it. I hated it because ultimately they're trying to put voices on,
of course,
and in my head that's not what they sound like. So I ended up really disliking it, and I thought this is just too distracting. I'm not enjoying it. It's not. How I would enjoy. You know when you end up kind of doing things yourself, whether you create someone how you look in your head or for years, right? You know the character of Detritus, which is the troll. For years, I just kept reading it as Detritus. but it's detritus. Of course it's detritus. It's about, a pile of rocks and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that you do that in your head and you really struggle to get out of it. So hearing people to put voices on just did very, very little for me. That's the kind of thing. But yeah, the whole experience, I mean, the amount of stuff I've got over here, from art books to I own real estate. I own real estate in Ankh-Morpork. Yeah, look, all stuff like that. I own all of this. There's a shop that's in his country, which is Discworld only. It's a specific Discworld, the Discworld Emporium. The Discworld Emporium. Wow. I can't remember where it is, but I need to travel there one day. I bought stuff from them. A lot of the stuff I've got around here, I've got like an egg, which if you know, Nightwatch, you know why I've got an egg. Of course, the luggage. The luggage, which in the game is your thing, the librarian. Yep. They're all dotted around here. I have lots and lots of constant Discworld stuff. I've just collected it over the years. I'm super, super proud of and all that, and it's just, and lots of like, what I love is like, it's the little stuff. So like, it's the stuff that isn't necessarily like stuff you find elsewhere. So like these old things that were like sold back in the day, these chronicles that are really hard to find. The maps. That's like a
promo or something.
They open up at Lanka. They open up into full maps. Yes, they open up the full maps. Death's the main one. Ankh-Morpork. Two Ankh-Morporks, because one of them has a cut in it. That's why. A quiz book. So you think you know Discworld. Okay, right. Let's choose a later book for you. See, right. Okay, so this is how old this is, people, right? This is doing the books in order, so you've got questions about it. It ends at Interesting Times, which is not very far into the series at all. This book, has it said when it's published? Have I got a thing when it's published? No, okay. Oh, no, it goes to Men at Arms as well. Which character was so skilled as a blacksmith that he once put shoes on an ant? I think guess. Rincewind, he wasn't a blacksmith. Yeah, Jason Ogg, Nanny Oggs.
As I said, my knowledge of this game is from playing the game Discworld II. It's not from the books.
No.
It will be eventually, as I said, but whenever I get to that.
I even have things like this. This is a miniature Colour of Magic.
That's crazy, that is.
I know, right?
Is that the actual book, is it? Yeah?
It's the actual book, written as small as possible in this miniature little book. I know, right? It's fucking hilarious.
That's crazy.
But I've always just, whenever I've got the opportunity and something's come my way, I've been like, oh, I'll pick that up.
Of course, yeah.
Something like, I'll pick that up. Often on eBay and things like that. But I've got all the companions. I've got several copies of the same books. Of course, it's not just the original books as well. I have the black ones, the ones with different covers. I've been collecting them as well, and things like that. And I think one of the last things most recent I got as well was this version of Hogfather.
That's a cool edition, though.
Yeah, 25th anniversary edition. So yeah, I'm just a collector and all that. But bringing us back to the game, all of this exists because of the game. Of
course.
All of this obsession, this love, this adoration of Discworld in general exists because of the game. Now his daughter is of course very famous. She's a writer. She wrote for the Tomb Raider games, the modern ones and all that kind of thing. And there was this idea that was like, oh, she can continue his work afterwards. And my heart sunk. And I was like, I don't want it. I don't want this.
They won't be the same.
But thankfully she was very insistent, no. There are a few more things to come, not Discworld related, of recently, at the time of recording, they discovered or found some old writings that can be put into other works and stuff like that, other stories, short stories, because he didn't just write Discworld. Of course, back in the day, I'm going back over here again to pull out pre-Discworld stuff. Terry Pratchett, The Dark Side of the Sun. You can get a lot of Discworld early writings in this. Strata. Oh, that's a quiz book. Johnny and the Bomb. Books like that. Pre-Discworld. So he was writing before him. Neil's wrote other stuff alongside it. Yep. Maurice and his amazing rodent is about to become, I think it's going to be on Sky soon. That's a side story. An animated show or movie. I'm not entirely sure. Really on the fence about this. And the reason being is because I did really like Maurice as a book. But it got dark. And I'm not entirely sure, based on what I'm seeing in the audience it's aimed at, whether or not they're going to keep that part, that ending,
See, this series would be for me. It would be practically impossible to do.
Right, don't do it. For fuck's sake, people, stop doing it. I've seen every attempt. Oh my God, we bring it back around. So
Too difficult.
yeah, we bring it back to what I originally said, right? So I really, like I said, I don't like the Colour of Magic and I don't like the Light Fantastic, the one with David Jason. I just don't like them. I'm sorry, they're not for me. These animated movies, they're not good. They're not good, telling you that right now. Hogfather, I can kind of get along a little bit with, but I really hate the guy that plays Mr. Tear Time, who's a great villain in a book, and it's just cheesy as fucking a thing. And then there was Going Postal. So, I did get worried a little later in the years of Discworld, why I wasn't maybe finding new stories that I was really in love with the way I did some of the old ones. I was always enjoying the Watch stuff and the Guards and all of that. And Monstrous Regiment came along, and I struggle with Monstrous Regiment. I struggle. It's one of my least favourite Discworld books, even though I know it's a lot of people's favourite. But then Going Postal came along. And Going Postal, oh my God, I adore. It's one of my all-time favourite of the stories now. I find it so uplifting. Moist von Lipwig is one of my favourite characters, Terry Creighton in his later years. I love it. I like the books that followed, Making Money and Raising Steam. Not quite as good. I think Raising Steam is a little bit, well, truth be told, out of steam. It's one of the last books as well, before Terry died. But Going Postal was stunning. My God, what an upliftingly, cleverly done story. I ended up briefly in my teenage years trying to mirror some elements of my personality on Moist, which is crazy considering he's a fucking fraudster. Yeah. Well, there you go. Fraudster crap, you know? Absolutely like that. As you do stupid shit in your teens and stuff like that. But anyway, that got made into another TV movie. And I thought it was doing okay. Until they changed one of the most important aspects of the book, just so they could cut it down, and it ruined everything. Now you might think, well, you're just being just a hyperbole, dude. It didn't ruin everything, did it? It's just you didn't like it. No, it ruined the two fucking main characters. It changed their motivations and behaviours. It changed the story that would pan out. It rushed it. It suddenly developed out of nowhere instead of being a long burning story in the book that made sense. She saw through his fucking bullshit, and that's what made him like her. To then just have her go, oh, no, I you know what I did? I did something I never do. So I will famously watch anything to the end. I could be watching the most painful movie ever. It's terrible, but I will watch it to the end because hey, it might redeem itself at the end. It might have something that makes it at least worthwhile. Turn this off. Switched it off. And I swore I'd never finish it. That's where it stayed. Leave Discworld alone, please. Leave Discworld alone.
Yeah, there's certain. I mean, it would have to be an anime, but a proper one. But I think it's practically impossible. It's too difficult.
Thankfully, it seems like there's no money to be made here, so it's not going to happen. If it was going to happen again, it'd have happened already. I'm fairly confident we're safe, Phil. We're more likely, as you say, with Amazing Maurice, to get those sort of stories. Discworld is too hard. That's famous. The fact it was impossible to map for such a very, very long time. Yeah. But, you know what I'd really love? More games. I would like to see more games. Did you ever play Discworld Noir?
I'm sure I'm pretty sure that I own all three Discworlds.
Yep.
I'm sure I do. Because one's a blue front cover to it. One's got the orange sort of cover. And the other one is...
Dark, black.
Is it clear black? Maybe I don't know.
Discworld Noir is quite a shift in tone. Yeah. It was quite different. I loved it. I don't think it's got quite the same... If I played it back when I was younger, I played Noir way after I was a fan of Discworld, so I could appreciate it from that perspective. But if I played that when I first played Discworld, I probably wouldn't have been taken by it.
That's quite interesting. Right?
So that's what it is. I think it's that. But yeah, it comes back to that. Discworld 2, Missing Presumed. I mean, it fucking started
that's the one I have.
Something incredible off. And I'll always be forever grateful for that. And that's simply why we wanted to do this video. As much as I could ramble on, I could probably go on for ages. I'll probably revisit this at some point where I talk about... Get all the books on here, and then talk about each individual one in a way.
And hopefully, by that time, I would have read all the books, and then I could actually be able to be more knowledgeable book-wise.
Listen to the books. You're cheating, dude. You're not reading them. You're listening to the books. He's cheating.
Listen to the books, yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to say, do you have the same thoughts or opinions about Discworld 2, Missing Presumed? I think, or Mortality Bites, I think that's probably rare. But it'd be interesting if you do, or if you kind of just like, no, you don't really get it. I don't know. I guess, and it's not even a call to Discworld fans because there's loads of them out there. It's really, this game had an effect. Even though it had an effect on us in different ways, and it created my love affair, it's still a game that you have a love and appreciation for.
I think personally, younger people wouldn't understand this. I
don't think many young people would understand point and clicks traditionally anyway.
But I think like people, if a 20-year-old or whatever, or a younger picked up one of these books, that they won't get it.
I don't know about that. No, because if you pick up a token book,
they wouldn't have commitment because it's like when you read the Lord of the Rings book.
That's a fucking bigger commitment in this world.
Yeah, exactly. But it's very difficult. So, I mean, I'll give you an example. I've read the Lord of the Rings books many times, but the Silmarillion is a very, very hard read.
Of course.
Very, obviously, because the way.
You mean attention spans?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that, but I don't want to tar generations with brushes like that.
No, but I'm even tired myself because I'll give you an example.
You struggled.
Brendan's favourite book, the
Dark Tower.
Yeah, the Dark Tower. I've read the Gunslinger about 5 times,
but not got any further than that.
I haven't had a commitment to go further because I didn't get it.
You're struggling to let it take it in,
and I'm sure
it does get better.
I'm sure I will eventually because I have got again on my phone on Audible, but I just have had that push to go.
No, I get it because time is important, and we already mentioned in this that I can't really go back and read the Discworld series again anytime soon because of a time commitment more than anything else. Attention spans are important. I know because I've read them before, I might get distracted easily, and I'll get to a certain point, and maybe I can't read one for a week, and then I'll forget. I completely understand that.
Yeah.
I did just want to throw out there because I laughed earlier on during it, but in my opinion, Terry Pratchett pisses all over Tolkien and Stephen King when it comes to storytelling. Sorry, I wanted to mention that earlier on.
No.
I understand the fan of Tolkien and that. Well, I had something I was going to say. I wanted to sign this video off, right? I want to finish this video. I don't want to go too long, but I do want to say something that, I don't know, maybe it's controversial, maybe it's not. Considering we buddied up Broken Sword 2 with Discworld 2 Missing Presumed earlier on because we played them at the same time, I just want to sign off by saying this. Broken Sword 2 is a better game, though. It is a better game.
That is controversial.
Even though Discworld had more of an impact, I think Broken Sword 2 is a better game.
I'm surprised by that. I'm actually shocked.
It is a better game. It's better storytelling, more cohesive, easier to play.
People watching the video, you don't see any Broken Sword memorabilia, do you?
That's because there's fucking none. I would love some. I would love happily to get some proper memorabilia. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. There we go. That's our thoughts. That's us talking about Discworld. Well, talking about Discworld 2 Missing Presumed. That's us talking about Discworld in general. And me trying to pull stuff off the shelves really awkwardly. Got any thoughts on it? You know what to do. Let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?